We are not there to say, oh, we are searching for the aliens on Earth. We want to, at least I speak for myself, to unmask what is appearing in our sky.
I love
I
that.
cannot even exclude that someone is cheating us. Uh, but this is my opinion, okay? Because it is very well known that the military have some kind of artifacts which are optical and also audio that are used for so-called psychological warfare. So they create these things in the sky using several, device to cheat,
Yeah,
or
to distract. I saw this really cool article in Forbes a couple of years ago. I've mentioned it before on the show, but it was like this defense contractor had developed a tool to project a heat signature hologram from a satellite, essentially. And I'm like, wow, that sounds exactly like those Tic Tac UFO things. I
yeah,
don't know if it was or not, but I thought it was really interesting that it was a very small headline. It disappeared. But I was like, that seems like that could explain some of this stuff if people
it
were.
could, it could, and all these things would anyway appear, especially from spectroscopy, because if there is some kind of artificial light, like flares, for instance, we expect what kind of spectral lines they would produce, and we would unmask them immediately. Okay, so the important thing is rationally um, unmask. Literally, it's like investigative work, and see what's going on, because people wants to know, people has to use critical thinking, and how easy is to how to say, to remotely control people. With a light in the sky, you can remotely control people in the same way in which I remotely control my cat with my laser spot on the ground.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. Well,
so
so I
it's
have a
interesting.
it is very interesting, and I think that you're touching upon a psychological aspect of this, which is that people want to believe and people want to be part of something that is larger than themselves, and there's this entire structure around the phenomenon that's very spiritual and psychological.
Tantalizing.
Tantalizing. And one of the things that makes it so tantalizing is that oftentimes the footage is grainy and not very good, and so you see
Yeah.
something but you can't really tell what it is. And now that you have these setups with these cameras, are you starting to get really, really high resolution footage of these events in Norway and in Marfa? Or
Well, no, there are some. There are some of quite acceptable quality in Norway. We have done missions there. I've been in Norway 4 times, and we had high resolution video cameras, for instance, where you can see many details, and also very shocking aspects. For instance, lights that are spherical. They don't show any structure, so you would think it's a natural phenomenon of the ball lightning kind, maybe, but much bigger. All of a sudden, the spherical thing becomes a perfect rectangle. Clearly, it's a rectangle.
Whoa.
I can say that because there are not 4 pixels there, but there are 400 pixels. So I use also another camera just to have a confirmation that that's becomes a rectangle. It becomes a rectangle. So I don't know how it happens. Sometimes I think if it's a natural phenomenon, I would think about the snowflakes. When you look at snowflakes, there is a geometric, symmetrical pattern. And so what happens with the plasmas? And so there is a lot that we have still to learn. It could be something very interesting. It's not necessary that we find aliens or something. It could be, but there could be something very interesting in nature, maybe triggered by the ground, by piezoelectricity, for instance. and a new source of energy, because it's very interesting to understand how it works, because in that case we might reproduce all this in a laboratory, a very clean source of energy. This is one of the perspectives that we have. But yes, we have some good, not perfect resolution videos or photos, but some are good. Most of them are low resolution. They're lights that you could create them by yourself with a laser or something. Okay, some are good, but we need much better quality. And so far, there's not been any initiative scientific. Well, there's been, but not enough scientific initiative. We need something much more systematic. And the Galileo project, for instance, is pushing very much in this direction. So Professor Avi Loeb is doing very well, absolutely well. I agree with him. I don't agree with him with some things, but I agree with him with the general strategy, absolutely. Yeah, and rigor.
Do you feel like it's like, okay, there's a very real possibility that what you're studying is some sort of defense project, right? That's at least a possibility.
Could be.
To some portion of what you're studying, I should say. Do you feel like that is an almost impossible task because whatever sort of information you try to bring to the table will be denied or not given the full attention because it's like a national security threat of some sort?